Davis steps under center. Gibson and McClendon behind him. Davis with motion by Richard. Will give the ball to McClendon. He leaps. Oh, he doesn't get in. He fumbled the football. Carolina holds. The game is over. And Carolina has won the game.
Finley to throw. Over the middle, intercepted. Wolford again. Wolford the other way at the 30, the 40. Wolford to midfield. Miles Wolford with the pick. The Heels on the doorstep of an enormous victory.
Left side of the line. Hood standing to Williams' right. Williams going to throw. One-on-one. Davis has it.
Touchdown. Carolina wins. Carolina is the Coastal Division champion.
Bernard fields it at the 26.
Heading to the far side. Gio at the 35. Gio is at the 50. No, he's not. Yes, he is. Gio is going to take it for a touchdown. Are you kidding me?
Connor Barth for the possible win. Snap, spot, kick away, high enough, long enough. It's good! It's good! Carolina has won the game on a 42-yard field goal by freshman Connor Barth. Good gosh, dirty!
This is the Heel Tough Blog Podcast. Hey guys, and welcome in to another edition of the Heel Tough Blog Podcast. It's Anthony Pagnotta back with you guys as always, and we continue our quarantine interview series. We throw it back a little bit further. We've been kind of focusing on a lot of the newer guys here, some of the guys that just graduated most recently, but now we go back a little further and bring on a guy that I know you guys will love. A lot of our older Tar Heel fans will love. The former quarterback for the Tar Heels, Chris Keldorf, and how's it going, man? I know, this is definitely a difficult time that everybody's going throughout the country, but are you staying safe out there in California with your family? How are you guys managing through this just weird time that we're going through in 2020?
Yeah, no, we're doing great. It's learning the art of homeschooling, 3 boys, managing your own workload, but it's just a constant learning curve, but fortunate. We're all happy, healthy, and safe, and that's what's most important. So all tracking really well.
Well, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. And let's look back at your career. And the first thing that I want to know, how did a guy from Manhattan Beach, California originally, you went to Palomar Junior College, how did you end up at North Carolina through all of that?
I know. It still seems to be a crazy, crazy engagement. I had no idea that schools from the East Coast would ever recruit junior college guys from the West Coast, and I had every intention of staying local right after my Palomar days. And I get a call from Coach Mac Brown one afternoon, and had seen some tape. They were actually looking for basically a 2-year fix at quarterback. Mm-hmm. First time I think they ever recruited a junior college prospect, North Carolina at the time. And they made an in-home visit a week later, and then I went out to Chapel Hill on a visit and loved it so much, fell in love with the coaching staff and made some immediate friends. And based on the other offers that I had, it wasn't even close. And I think literally like 2 weeks later, it was January, the first or second week of January, I'm on campus in the classroom. It happened really that fast. Mm-hmm. So really quickly, never imagined, living in Manhattan Beach, California, and then ending up in Chapel Hill. But it did, and worked out pretty well.
Well, I know that a lot of the guys that we've heard from recently, just some of the guys that have joined the program, and even some of the guys that you played with, said that Mac Brown's recruiting touch is just different than a lot of the other schools. Did you kind of feel that even back in the 90s with Coach Brown, that he was just more of the guy that kind of understood you guys a little bit more and could really connect with you on a different level?
It's actually uncomparable. There's an energy that's very unique and authentic. And you see that in the very moment you meet him, and the story he brings, And it's not just a story without, the depth. Once you arrive, it is what it is. It is what he told you. And it's one of the most magical places to play. And the environment, Chapel Hill, the stadium, the lights, the school, the friends. I mean, it's every bit of the story that he shared. And I'm not shocked at all of his, year back, his first year back of success they've had, the energy. Just watching the game from the West Coast, you can see the sideline, the passion, the discipline. Even on the social media channels and everything they're doing there, the energy is off the charts, and not shocked at all, not surprised, and actually looking for even greater success this year. So he's doing everything that I thought he would, just based on who he is and the energy he brings.
Well, speaking of not being surprised, you said that you didn't really get why they were recruiting a guy from the junior college ranks out on the West Coast. Well, we found out pretty quickly when you arrived to Carolina, because your first game was a 45-0 shutout of Clemson. And then I think the one that was really the big statement was when you guys went up to Syracuse and came away with a 27-10 road win over Donovan McNabb and the number 9 Orange. Do you feel like that was the game that kind of set the tone, not only for that year, but for the year after as well?
Absolutely. Coming from the West Coast, I wasn't used to Clemson and Florida State. I've always talked UCLA, USC, Cal, Stanford. That's what I grew up with. So it wasn't until the second or third game I'm like, wow, we are really good. We essentially have the number 1 defense in the country. Offense just has to kind of do X to win the game. And beating Clemson by that much, second, third, fourth game, it really showed that, wow, we are good. We're talented, disciplined. I think we had an older group of guys that helped, very mature group. But again, having the number 1 defense in the country, always putting the offense in, most of the time in a great situation, always helped. But I remember it was after that Syracuse game where put us on the map, put us, I believe, in the top 25. I do remember that now in detail. But yeah, second, third game, we knew we had a pretty good team.
Well, that 1996 season was just amazing for you. You threw for 2,347 yards, 23 touchdowns, and just 5 interceptions to earn first-team All-ACC honors. How surreal was that for you to go from being a guy that was just at the junior college level to being a first-team All-Conference player in your first year in the ACC?
Couldn't believe it. Didn't resonate immediately. Honestly, the really honest approach to all this is I was just happy to be at North Carolina. I was happy to have an opportunity to get my degree from North Carolina, hopefully play some football, have success, have fun. And I never could have dreamt the way that it had gone. And then making first team, and along with a handful of other teammates, it just was. It really, even today, blows my mind that even happened. But again, it's a cumulative effect. It's playing with great guys, great teammates, great coaching staff, a system, being surrounded by great fans. You just can't do it alone. But that 96 season, you'll never forget it. It's one of the greatest experiences of my life. So.
Well, yeah, no, I think you're right about that. I mean, just that stretch alone was fantastic. But one of the things that I think, you would definitely talk about and really say on behalf of that team was you had some great receivers that were with you, including Octavius Barnes, as well as Na Brown. Those guys, I remember talking when he was still in high school to current Tar quarterback Sam Howell. How big or is it to have guys like that are extremely talented at wide receiver as a quarterback? How much does that help you?
Oh, it not only helps having talented receivers, but the difference maker is having your talented receivers who know their role. So with Octavius Barnes, Na Brown, LC Stevens, Jason Peters, they all knew their role in the offense. And when you know your role, you can really grasp on that role and do it really well at a very deep level. And that was the really, really cool thing about, especially those receivers, is they managed their craft, they knew their role, especially in the offense, and that's how you can have success. And they all played, they put egos aside, they all played so well together, and they were friends not only on the field but off the field. They respected each other, which is also a key element. But again, knowing your role and how to do it at a very deep level is one of the keys to success, and they did that very well.
Well, I mean, the other thing is you guys had some really good running games as well during that time. I think Jonathan Linton is a guy that just doesn't get as much respect as he probably should, as well as you also got to play your first year on campus with Leon Johnson. You know, what was that experience like playing with guys like that, especially a guy in Leon Johnson who I just don't think gets quite the respect that he should as a great Tar Heel player?
Probably the greatest athlete I've ever played with, Leon Johnson. I've never seen a guy felt like he could play any position on the field at any given time. Could catch. He was a former quarterback in high school. Could throw, could run, special teams. Probably the best hands on the team. You know, your third down, third and 5 situations, he was a go-to kind of guy. Fast, nimble, and really, really smart. And again, his nickname was the Natural, and essentially could do anything at any given moment, depending on the situation. And even to this day, he's just such an exceptional athlete and great guy. And John Linton, awesome, smart, more of that bigger body, power runner, great hands. Look, they're obviously different running backs, right, but equally valuable, equally productive. So I got lucky in that sense, where you have that guy in that backfield. It makes your job a lot easier.
Well, all of you guys combined to, at one time in 1997, get as high as 4th in the country, and were one of the teams that many people thought were in the running for a national championship. When did that kind of hit you guys as maybe a locker room, or even just you personally, that this team actually has a chance to make a run at a national title, something that is just, you know, as of right now, what most people are saying is unheard of at Carolina, but for you guys was something that seemed accomplishable.
Right. No, it was that senior year, that Judgment Day game, where I don't think we topped 80,000 fans. I don't know the exact number, but that game or a week before that game, it was, guys, we're potentially playing for a national title. We beat Florida State, which we didn't, unfortunately, but right, we're in. And even after that loss, it was only a loss of the season, we still had a chance. We still had a chance. We won out the rest. I think we had 2 or 3 more games after that, but we still had a chance. And it just came down to the selection committee at the time. So even though we lost the game, we still had a chance. If we would have won, we would have been playing for a national title. So awesome experience, but it was that game I think we knew, like, wow, this is bigger than just the ACC championship. We're potentially playing for the national title on that one day we played Florida State for Judgment Day. So big game, unfortunate outcome, but one heck of an experience.
Yeah, just an amazing season. At the time was just the second time that the program had won 11 games, so just a phenomenal season overall. And in that season, for you, it was maybe a little bit different than some of the other guys on the team, because you and Oscar Davenport did split time to help the team win 11 games. What was that relationship like between you guys, because you were having to kind of switch in and out and stuff like that? I imagine that it was definitely competitive, but at the same time, definitely a good, close relationship.
100%. Awesome guy. One of the greatest guys, one of the nicest guys I know, always respectful, always kind. Whether I was playing or he was playing, you're rooting for each other. And guys, we're talking about a very talented quarterback here. He could start at any Division I program in the country.
Right.
Had the arm, had the intellect, had the speed, decision making. I mean, he had it all there. Unfortunately, he had some injuries like I did, so it can obviously cause a disruption in your career. But man, one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country at that point. But the really, really cool thing about all of that, it could have gone bad, but it didn't. It was actually turned out really well. We won 11 games. We played very well together, practiced well together. We're in our meetings, had a great time. So I have nothing negative at all about that experience. I think it's a rarity for that situation to turn out the way it did.
Through all of the success on campus, is there one memory that sticks out to you, maybe in particular, about your years at Carolina?
Yeah, I think the last game my senior year against Duke, I had gotten hurt the year before at Duke, and then my senior year they came to our place, my last game, and it really capped off just a journey of, man, I got here, I got my degree, we won our last game, headed to the Gator Bowl, my last game in Kenan Stadium, and but just that game, I can still remember just literally staying on the field for about an hour and just reflecting on the journey everything that I've learned, and the friendships I've made, all the football accomplishments we were able to do together as a team. I know where I was standing. I know what I was thinking. I know exactly where in the stadium I was. I think that was probably one of the most memorable moments, even though, it was Duke. We did win, but again, that was one of probably my most memorable games because it was a culmination of the entire journey.
Well, look, once your career ended, you never really removed yourself from the sports world because you worked for ESPN, and now you actually work for a company called Fusionetics. What is Fusionetics, and what is your role with the company, just to kind of help people understand where you're at now?
Sure. Yeah, Fusionetics is a performance health system where we have technology that analyzes human movement. So with very simple tools, digital tools, we can look at various parts of your body and figure out if you're moving well or not, and then give you a program to fix it. So very, very popular tool within the sports channel. I manage the Fusionetics sports channel. Mm-hmm. We have close to over 1,000 teams at the pro and college level utilizing our system. And so based on all the injuries I have, this is truly an injury prevention tool, performance tool, and a recovery tool. So really giving the athletes the best chance from a physical performance perspective, keeping them healthy, allowing them to perform at a high level on the field, and then obviously offering them the right recovery tools to do it again every day. So I love it. I've had the injury, so I know what that's like, trying to come back. So I'm very close to it, very passionate about it, being able to get back to the sports community, what it's given to me with great technology, great relationships. And now I think we just surpassed 1,000 teams using the system.
Wow, that is fantastic and awesome to hear. Hey, Chris, this was awesome, man. And let me just say, look, I mean, when we talk about the best quarterbacks in program history, everybody wants to talk about the new wave of guys that have been through. And there have been some really great guys, including the guy we have there now and Sam Howell. But you're a guy that definitely isn't going to get forgotten about when we talk about the quarterbacks in program history, because just looking back at your year, especially in 1996, was fantastic. You were one of those guys that when I was going through and making my list of quarterbacks last year when I did the tier rankings, just reading more about you, I was like, wow, this guy was really well ahead of his time. And it's unfortunate that your career was kind of hindered a little bit by the injuries, but just know that at least in my mind, and I think in a lot of the other listeners' minds, you're definitely regarded as one of the best quarterbacks in program history, my man.
Oh, awesome to hear. Had a ton of fun. Some luck involved. Loved the journey. So appreciative of it. Love to keep talking about it. Hopefully it brings a smile to a lot of people's faces. But man, what a ride. And, I wish all the success and for this year's coming team. Sam Howell's an awesome quarterback. You can see it in all the tangibles. So I wish him nothing but the best this fall.
All right, man. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. This was fantastic. And make sure that you stay safe out there. I know that right now everything that's going on is just crazy. And out there in California, there's especially been a lot of cases. So make sure you stay safe. And hopefully we can talk to you down the line again sometime. All right, buddy?
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me, and stay safe as well.
All righty.
Take care.
All right, Chris Keldorf, the former Tar Heel quarterback, stopping by with us. That was fantastic. And yeah, definitely, we're trying to get some of these guys that played back in the 90s and the 80s. We're not just trying to get on the guys that just played recently, but I do have some connections with a lot of those guys. But it's awesome to be able to talk to some of these other guys that can tell us some of these stories about the other great times at Carolina, and as well as what it was like to play under Mac Brown. And that was just fantastic. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. And we've got some other great guys coming up. We've got some guys that we've already interviewed that you're going to want to go back and listen to. Make sure you go back and check out all of the former guys that have been on, from guys like Antonio Williams to Deontay Williams, who was on the 2010 team that was expected to be a national contender, maybe up there near those teams that we just talked about with Chris. But man, It's just been great talking to a lot of these former guys during this time where, we're going through a lot of hardship, and we are hoping that maybe this is helping you guys get through that by being able to listen to some of these former guys come on and just chat with us. And we're also hoping not only that it's helping you guys, but that it's helping the guys that have come on. I know, some of those guys will probably go back and listen to this, and if you are, I really appreciate it because, I know that at this time, it's hard out there. We're just looking to, have people come on, have conversations, just talk and hang out for a few minutes and just take your mind off everything that's going on right now in this crazy world. So make sure that you guys head over, check out all those other editions of the podcast. You can do that. Make sure if you do that, you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. Let me tell you, the rate, review stuff really is just to try to help other people find it. And how that happens is if you rate and review the podcast, the more ratings and reviews it gets, the higher it appears when people search for North Carolina Tar Heels podcast, stuff like that. So we'd really appreciate that so that not only can you guys listen to it, but other people in the Tar Heel community can go ahead and find the podcast and join along with us. And then the subscribe, well, that's for you guys to make sure that you subscribe and don't miss an episode, because guess what? Even though we just talked to Chris Keldorf, that's not the end. We've got plenty of other guys that are coming on as well. So make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss any of that, and so you can find it in your stream. So when you go on to whatever app you listen to your podcast in, you can find the Heel Tough Blog podcast whenever you end up logging into your account where you listen to your podcast. Of course, you can do that with the Roy's Boys podcast as well. That's also on the website. There's a tab at the top for the Heel Tough Blog podcast, a tab at the top for the Roy's Boys podcast, and then we got you covered with all of the news going on. Now, since we are recording these well ahead of time, we're going to make sure that we kind of leave this a little bit general, but in terms of football, we've been covering everything in the offseason, from recruiting, any team news, any news as to whether or not the season will be played. So make sure you go online and check that out. Also, we've got some great stuff for the basketball team. We've been reviewing a lot of the players from a year ago, kind of doing individual reports on the guys from the 2019-20 season, so make sure you go back and check that out. We've got you covered with all the NBA draft stuff as well, and then we'll have you covered whenever the Tar Heels hit the basketball court again in 2020-21 if they do that. Same thing with the baseball team. We covered them a little bit during the 2020 season, but unfortunately, since that got cut short, we had to stop the coverage, but we'll be back in 2021. We are still looking for someone that can kind of do that full-time, because, look, football and basketball, they're pretty much full-time jobs, having to keep up with the teams as well as work our current full-time jobs that we work. So we are looking for somebody that can help us with the baseball team. If you are interested, make sure that you hit me up on Twitter at HTBAnthony. My DMs are open, so make sure you guys send me a message in there if you're interested, or you can go ahead and email me. Anthony.Pagnotta@yahoo.com is the email. That's the ways you can contact me if you're interested. Literally all you got to do is pretty much show interest, and you'll be on with us, and we can get you rolling, and you can start covering the baseball team in depth. So want to thank Chris Keldorf for stopping by with us. That was a fantastic talk. We got, as I mentioned, so many other guys coming up that you guys can listen to, so make sure that you're keeping tuned in to the Heel Tough Blog podcast channel. And of course, we want to thank you guys for listening, and as always, go Tar Heels!